What's up everybody, Sean here and thank you for joining me. Today we are reviewing the Orient Mako Sapphire, or as some call it, the Orient Mako 3. So my first automatic watch was this Generation 1 Orient Mako that my dad bought for me. And all I knew about watches back then was that it looked like that Rolex that all the rich guys had, and I wanted one in blue. And I mean, what did I know, right? And while it did cost more than the usual Casio or quartz watch that I was used to back then, it was hardly as expensive as I expected a luxury watch to actually cost. Pretty soon I will end up getting another one in black and another Orient Ray in PVD, and yeah, you get the idea. So as my interest and knowledge in watches grew, I started to understand more things like the difference between sapphire and mineral glass, automatic versus manual movements, and so on. I then came to know about the Orient Kamasu, which, although slightly more expensive, it did come with a sapphire crystal as compared to the less scratch resistant mineral glass on the Orient Mako. I was never really a fan of the first generation Kamasu dial, however, and I always wished that I could just pay a little bit more to get an Orient Mako with a sapphire crystal instead of having to resort to third-party modifications, and I know I probably was not the only one. Well, now we can. So this watch comes in a case size of 41.8mm, a lug-to-lug distance of 46.8mm, and a lug width of 22mm. It has a thickness of 12.8mm and is made of stainless steel with a sapphire crystal on the front and a solid screw-down case back on the back. It runs on the F6922 caliber movement, which is automatic, hand winds and hacks, and has a power reserve of 40 hours, 200 meters of water resistance, and retails for $340 at the time of this filming. So in the past, if you wanted a budget dive style watch from Orient, you'd be forced to look at either the Kamasu or the slightly larger size Orient Triton. Although the Kamasu is one of Orient's best selling models, if you wanted Arabic numerals on the dial, you'd have to settle for the mineral glass of the Orient Mako. Some people would even go out of their way to fit their Orient Makos with aftermarket sapphire crystals, but thankfully this is no longer needed with this release. The new Mako Sapphire, or Mako 3, is basically a Kamasu with a Mako dial. So you get all the benefits of the Kamasu, especially the sapphire crystal, along with the fun and casual design of the Mako dial. It is currently offered in 4 colors, each with a unique 2-tone bezel and 2 different colors on the tip of the seconds hand. The new Mako comes in either a blue or an ivory dial, paired with a light blue on blue and a beige on green bezel respectively, supposedly depicting beach views during the day. It also comes in a Bordeaux or a grey dial, paired with a light grey on grey and a Bordeaux on brown bezel respectively, meant to depict beach views in the twilight. Orient goes further to depict the sun's rays in the various color settings with a yellow tip on the seconds hand of the blue and Bordeaux dial models and an orange tip on the ivory and grey dial models. The model that I am reviewing today is the ivory dial version, which I personally bought for myself. So at 41.8mm in diameter, this is actually the same case as the Orient Kamasu and not the previous 2nd gen Orient Mako. With the same 46.8mm lug-to-lug distance, it gives the same comfortable fit on my 6.25-inch wrist. A nice touch that I observed is how they decided to recreate the simpler case finish of the Orient Mako line instead of using the slightly more well-defined beveling found on the Kamasu line. I suppose it was probably cheaper as well. Another nice touch is that they have given it a larger crown, which was one of the main criticisms of the Kamasu line. The new screw-down crown that's been paired with the case has an excellent grip and is much easier to operate compared to what was previously offered. Those details aside, the case is practically the same with a solid screw-down case back, 200 meters of water resistance, a 120 click bezel with an aluminium insert, and of course, a flat sapphire crystal, which sits ever so slightly beneath the rotating bezel. Apart from the new colors, the layout and design of the dial is practically the same as the Makos that came before it, with a couple of small and one notable exception. We still get the 12, 6 and 9 o'clock Arabic numerals with pointed bar indices for the remaining hours. We also still get the framed day and date windows at the 3 o'clock position, along with the same applied Orient logo and printed dial text. The only difference being that instead of 200 meters, it now writes 20 bar. The major design change from the previous Makos is the removal of the beveled chapter ring in favor of a flat one-piece dial. This is similar to that of the Kamasu dial, which I suppose makes sense as it is now using the Kamasu case instead of the Mako II case. I think this is a really good move though, as it really helps the dial to stand out more compared to the beveled chapter ring design. While some of the other colorways appear to have a matte finish dial, my ivory dial receives a very subtle sunburst finish that really gives a unique vibrance to it. Apart from that, the sword, minute and hour hands are the same as the previous generation, while the seconds hand receives an ever so slightly longer counterbalance. The lume applied on the hands and hour markers is very similar to other budget Orient divers. While nothing to shout about, it is definitely very good and usable for the price, especially when compared to some other major brands that cost several times more. Powering the watch, we have Orient's in-house workhorse, the caliber F6922, which is automatic, hand winds, hacks, and is accurate to -15 to +25 seconds per day. This is the same movement used in the Kamasu as well as many of the latest Orient day-date dive watches in the lower price range. This movement has been out for several years now and is proving to be a solid and reliable one. Don't be fooled by the spec sheet, as more often than not, these tend to run well within the spec, and if you happen to get one that is very close to the limit or even out of spec, it can be easily regulated. On to the bracelet, because this is basically the same case as the Kamasu, we get the same bracelet as before, which isn't a bad thing considering the price. Yes, it may have a stamped clasp and hollow end links, but it works well and is surprisingly comfortable. To expect more at this price would probably be quite an ask. The good thing is that there are readily available aftermarket options, including ones with solid end links and milk clasps for those of you willing to pay for it. It also pairs very well with NATO and rubber straps, as well as leather for those who can accept the leather on a diver. I personally have not found a strong enough reason to replace the stock bracelet yet though. So my final thoughts on this watch. This is quite literally the watch that many of us had been waiting for. Traditional Orient Mako looks in an updated yet barely noticeably different case. The new range of colors are also fun and refreshing without being over the top. This is a great everyday watch for a lot of people, as it could possibly blend into almost any situation, and it is sold at a price that is very reasonable for a solid beater watch. And so that wraps it up for this review. If you liked it and would like to see more like it, please give me a like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one.